thrilled to bring in our friend Dalouge Smith from the Lewis Prize for Music. Dalouge, thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's great to be back with the Music Policy Forum.
Yeah, good to see you. So talk a little bit, if you don't mind, just for those who are not familiar with Lewis Prize and even the whole field of community youth development, could you kind of just walk through some big picture stuff?
Sure. So let me start by saying the Lewis Prize for Music was founded in 2018 by Daniel Lewis, who I saw has joined us today. So we can all say thank you to Dan for making this decision and making this investment. The Lewis Prize for Music is focused on, let me actually sort of telescope back. When the effort was first started, basically the intention was to find and support incredible leaders who are using music for positive social change. And that's a massive body of people. And so the first 2 years was really spent narrowing down. How do we make a purposeful focus so that it's not a sort of just come one, come all, and we'll see who's out there and we'll see what they're doing. But how do we actually elevate certain priorities and identify ways in which music is being most impactful and kind of most potent in service of social change. We actually did two things simultaneously. We actually looked at the intersection between music and human rights and the fulfillment of human rights, and how is it that music has positive influence on employment, on education, on health, on mobility, etc. There's the UN goals, there's the UN Declaration of Human Rights, so the sustainability goals, I should say, the UN sustainability goals. So we were looking at that, and then we also did a really kind of comprehensive analysis of what we ended up identifying as 42 different music practice areas, and looked at how built out are they, how nascent are they, how prone are they for some important evolution. And through that process, we ultimately identified creative youth development, which is a field that was really only been named creative youth development for about 5 or 6 years, but is actually, you could almost say, as old as art and music itself. It's really about intergenerational learning. It's about giving young people a sense of self and place, and developing human development, using art as an important asset in human development. And so we ultimately identified that creative youth development is working very directly in all of these spaces that are also aimed toward the fulfillment of human rights. And so in 2019, we narrowed down to this focus. And we can get into some more specifics, but we narrowed down into this focus and opened up an application, basic criteria: be a creative youth development music organization anywhere in the United States, and tell us what you're doing, tell us how you're doing it. And the sort of the pivot point that we really wanted to focus on was systems change. How are you undertaking the work in ways that go beyond the direct instruction, but in ways that actually enable and empower young people, and then enable and empower young people to make change in their own community, and do that with a purpose toward an equitable society. Mm-hmm. So in January of 2020, we named our first awards. We gave 3 of what we call our Accelerator Awards, Lewis Prize Accelerator Awards, of $500,000 each to an organization in San Diego, the David's Harp Foundation, an organization in Portland, Oregon, My Voice Music, and an organization in Providence, Rhode Island, Community Music Works, and then some smaller grants to groups in New Orleans, Detroit, Southwest, Philadelphia, Utah, in Salt Lake City. So we've now just announced our second round of awards, $500,000 awards. And this year we gave 4 of these awards. Beyond the Bars, based in Philadelphia. We're excited to have some of their team here with us today. Hyde Square Task Force in Boston, the St. Louis Story Stitchers in St. Louis Story Stitchers Artists Collective, I should say, is their full name, and then Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit, obviously based in Detroit. So that's a snapshot of the Lewis Prize for Music.
That's fantastic. I appreciate that. And this is maybe, I don't know if this is a fair question or you can just say unfair question, we'll move on. But I mean, I'm always interested in terms of, philanthropy moving into a sector, recognizing this enormous need, because again, these other organizations that are not being funded in these particular cycles are still doing remarkable work. And so could you speak to sort of a long-term vision of, sort of raising the profile and awareness about the importance of the entire sector and where that ideally would lead over a period of time, so Lewis Prize isn't simply, a major funder making these incredibly important grants, but building support for everybody?
Yes, so that's not an unfair question. That's an absolutely appropriate question. And as Daniel Lewis has said many times, like I may have resources to make this kind of award. That's not enough to change the realities of entire neighborhoods, entire cities, the entire country, right? So where does that kind of leveraging resource live? It lives in our governments. It lives in our collaborations with each other. It lives in cross-sector efforts. And so we're very much, we basically have said, we've got three ways in which we're trying to advance both the awardees themselves, but the creative youth development field. And so that's obviously an access to resources, but it's also increasing visibility and understanding of this work. And the third is expanding networks and enabling greater sense of relationship and connection across, not just across organizations or across sectors, but across the country. And we have just gotten started, right? I mean, we have now given 2 cycles of awards. We did also do a very fast response to COVID. We gave over $1 million in grants in June. We basically did an open application for our COVID Community Response Fund. And unlike so many other response funds, we didn't say, what is it that you need? And we'll decide if we're going to give you some money to keep doing that. What we actually asked folks was, what are you doing for your community because your community needs it? And so that's why we use this phrase community response fund. And we actually were giving creative youth development organizations who were providing income replacement, providing academic supports, technology, Wi-Fi access, providing mental health supports, providing food security, providing transportation, right? Like, again, going back to the notion of what do you need to have a full and complete life? You need your human rights fulfilled. And these organizations were undertaking that in extraordinary ways. I mean, here's a little example. Taking what had always been a lunchtime or meal program in an after-school program, basically turning the transportation side of the program and the meal side of the program into a meal delivery program, delivering thousands of meals. This is a music program, delivering thousands of meals to families every week. Yeah. That's just astounding. And these groups have just kind of amped up their service to their communities in the midst of this past year.
Well, it's so inspiring, and I can't wait to bring our friends from Beyond the Bars in just a second. And I just say before we welcome them in, again, I mean, I've been incredibly blessed to do this work for 22 years, and one of the things, I mean, we always talk about is that music isn't widgets, right? Music is not. We should be talking about the commoditization of music and the monetization of music and meow, meow, meow. I mean, music, again, to your point, is humanity. It's empathy. It's communication. It's all the things that make us human. And we have been consistently so inspired by all these organizations from, again, all of Kate Becker's historic work with Vera Project in Seattle, Jeff Tribble, musicianship here in DC, of course, roots of music in New Orleans, obviously, all the incredible team behind Youth on Record and in Denver and other cities. And so to see you all coming into the field to kind of bring this focus and attention and elevating these voices and putting significant resources behind them is something that we're just thrilled by. So we're so excited to have you. And I'm going to ask you to tee up our next guest a little bit. Why don't you talk a little bit about Beyond the Bars?
So Beyond the Bars, based in Philadelphia, I mean, they're going to need to tell their own story,
Yes,
of course. But let me just say, one of the reasons I'm really excited that they're being featured here today is because they have a very tight relationship with the professional music industry community in Philadelphia. And Bets, who is one of the lead artists and instructors, is with us. And Sky, who is a young person who has come through Beyond the Bars and now become a leader in her own right and an instructor in her own right, is with us. And so they need to tell their story, but I think it'd be great to have them also speak about what does it mean to have a local music industry support the kind of work that they're doing. And I think we all dream that would be possible.
Thank you, Dalouge. That's a great introduction. Bets and Sky, thank you so much for joining us. We're thrilled to have you. And what should we know? Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. And I've been taking notes this whole entire time. I've really been learning a lot. My name is Betsaleel Charmelus, Bets for short. I am a first generation Haitian American artist, facilitator, thought seed planter, storyteller through my band Ill-Fated Natives, and I'm an educator and leader at Beyond the Bars, and I have been for the past 3 years. And I'll talk about the organization a little bit more, but I just wanted to give Sky an opportunity to introduce herself.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Sky. I'm one of the singers and musicians as well as a youth leader at Beyond the Bars. I've been with Beyond the Bars for about 4 years now, and yeah, I'm glad to be here today.
Awesome, thank you.
We're all the better to have you, Sky. You should know that. Beyond the Bars is a nonprofit organization based out of here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We are dedicated to interrupting cycles of violence and incarceration through the use of music and music education. And what that looks like is having artists that are working, that have been working, and that are committed to teaching our youth how to be an artist in the space, teaching them the music skills, the hard music skills, and also teaching how to be leaders in their own community, so that the goal is to inspire a new generation of youth to become leaders like Sky has become in her own community.
Tell me more. So how do you do that? I mean, I'm sorry. That was a great.
Absolutely, yeah.
No. I mean, so that's great. So what does this look like in practice? So about your sort of model in terms of constituents and sort of how you engage.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, Beyond the Bars itself as an organization started off going into prisons and really dealing directly with the carceral system. And one of the things that the leaders and the founders, Matthew Kerr and Christopher Thurton, wanted to do was make sure to, instead of dealing at the end of the situation, seeing all of these talented youth in prison already and kind of victims of the carceral system that we know is constantly trying to eat our youth, our Black and brown youth alive, trying to interrupt that pipeline before it goes further down the line. And the way that we started to do that was to connect to artists. I met Matthew through an artist friend of mine who introduced me, and that's how I got involved in the program. So just connecting to artists and being like, hey, do you guys want to do something to help support the show? Earlier, Bertus was talking about REM and starting with benefit shows. And that's exactly how Beyond the Bars started, with a lot of benefit shows where bands would just get together and participate and try to raise money and also create an opportunity and a platform for our student artists also to perform. My band, Ill-Fated Natives, has also participated in a couple of these benefit shows. And just to see how it's grown since the beginning, and it's, house shows and kind of just people kind of putting things together, and then also offering to volunteer and, hey, like, I'm off of tour, I'm going to come in and try to teach some youth guitar or bass. and to see how it's grown into now a community of producers, a community of artists that go into other environments where we're dealing with homelessness, we're in recreational centers, we're still in jails, I'm working in jails, and seeing the organization grow and being able to reach all these communities, it feels like positive growth exponential. So it's like I do something and I see it squared and then it continues to grow from there.
So Sky, how did you connect with these folks?
Actually through my mom. She previously worked at the juvenile center. So she met Mr. Matt, and she already knew that I wanted to get more into music. But a lot of music programs, you had to pay for it. So it was perfect that it was free at the time. And it still is free. But yeah, that's how I got into Beyond the Bars.
And how long ago and how old were you when you got connected to them?
I was 14 or 15 years old.
And what did
I'm 18 now.
Yeah. So what did that look like? I mean, that's a hard age to like try something new around trying anything, right? I mean, so you just sign up for sessions and just kind of show up, or kind of what was that process like for you?
Yeah. So originally it was at the CEC where it's back now. And I had to fill out a form with like, just saying that it was okay if I had to do any meetings or any type of videos or pictures, that would be okay with that. But other than that, I didn't really need to fill out any type of forms or anything. It was just, hey, come see how it is. And if you like it, then, you can be a part of it.
And what was your kind of typical experience like? I mean, were there structured courses or more open sessions, or just kind of a mix, or what? Kind of like, how did that play?
It was structured. In the beginning, I went there for piano, but then I got more into bass with Betts. He was my instructor and still is. But yeah, it was structured. We would have jam sessions sometimes, but after that, we would break off into small groups to where they would, teach us more about whatever instrument we wanted to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And do you have ambitions of a career in music, or are you, I mean, is that something you like to do to make a living, or just something that you're really glad that you can do? Like, it's just fun to do?
I wouldn't say I would do a career in it, but I am definitely glad to be a part of the organization and to be able to make music like that, for sure.
I would like to just jump in real quick. Sky and I have a really close relationship because I was really one of the main teachers that saw her first when she didn't know how to hold the bass, to now being an incredible musician, an incredible songwriter, and a vocalist, and seeing her teach other students, which is one of the main goals of this organization, period, is self-efficacy and going into a community where we have students that might not even know what they want to do with their lives generally, offer them music as a medium to find what they want to do, then also have career planning, having discussions about how they want to show up in the world, and then offer them opportunities to be leaders in their own right. So I just kind of wanted to jump in there to see Sky has been really, really inspiring to me. I also do want to talk about the technology aspect that we were talking about earlier that was being talked about. How do we understand, as I'm a working musician, how do I understand Bitcoin and all of these shifting things? One of the things that having youth has really helped me is they don't necessarily need to understand it. They're born with it, so they kind of already have an understanding of it that I'm learning from them. So I'm like, oh, cool. Why don't you go ahead and tell me about that? And they're like explaining it to me, like, you don't know about this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm, taking all of these notes. But it's also been filling my cup as well. And it's not a one-way relationship. Yeah.
And Betts, how extensive is your sort of network of teachers and other collaborators? And like, how does that work in terms of compensation structures? Are there full-time staff, part-time staff, mostly volunteers, kind of a whole mix?
Yeah, so we have 8 programs throughout the city that are serviced by a number of teachers that were all volunteer for a very long time, including our director, Matthew Kerr, who was really making a lot of sacrifices. And now, thanks to the Lewis Prize and the Accelerator Awards, we do have resources now and to be able to pay a lot of the teachers who have been sacrificing so much for the past few years and enable kind of a salary structure and really encourage them in that way. So yeah, we've got a lot of growth ahead of us.
Yeah, yeah. And the city has been, how's the city been? I shouldn't make any assumptions. Has the city government been welcoming? Have they been like, what's the?
Yeah. From both sides of the coin, I'd say. From that side of, okay, we're artists, we're, kind of nose to the grindstone on the street, and also from, the organizational standpoints of the city, we have gotten a lot of support in the city from both sides, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been so great.
Michael, can I add something?
Oh, go ahead, Dalouge, jump in.
I just want to add, for us on the outside, seeing beyond the bars, what's evident is that this is a group of people who saw a need. They kind of used their relationships and their skills to make some opportunity happen. And after a few years, it was like, oh my gosh, we are doing an immense amount here. Like, this is way out of scale of just like a casual, I think I'll be like spend a few hours on this, right? And so I think this is unfortunately the circumstance for so many projects like this, where they are so much passion, so much heart, so much giving that's going on, coming right out of the community itself. And like, what does it take to go from that to actually a kind of more stable, consistent offering to the community? And so for the Lewis Prize, we're really excited to see where they all go next, because the riches they have in terms of relationship and partnership and engagement with young people, and taking their letting the young people lead the design of the programs, all that stuff is so solidly in place. Dollars are the easy part. That stuff is the hard part.
Right. Exactly.
Are you guys a 501c3 now? Are you raising money? Are you got a board structure and all that?
Yes, we are 501c3, have a board structure, all that. Yeah.
How long ago did you start?
Since 2015, so 6 years ago now.
Wow.
Started. Yeah.
But all tied in with the whole community schools movement within the Philadelphia city schools.
Yes, we do have some schools as partners. Yeah, so we do go into schools.
Because it ties so much into the whole concept of what a community school is all about, as a hub, and the arts and extended school days to give kids more time in positive environments. I'm just so inspired by it. I as always, whenever Bracy gets me involved in something, I always learn more than I.
Yeah, that means a lot, especially coming from you. That really means a lot. And I do want to tie in something that Dalouge had mentioned, the fact that our approach and the part of the organization that I'm the director of is the SDMA, or the Student Driven Music Academy, which is, hey, come in. What do you want to learn? I'm the traditional schooling system for so long, and I'm sure all of us are familiar with this. The power dynamic is one person is the unquestionable authority. They stand in the front and they spit facts, and that's it. Whereas now we can create an environment, especially for Black and brown students, to come into a space and then, hey, you tell me what you want to learn, and I'm going to use what I know to try to get you there, which is what community building is all about.
Bebs, this is so great. And Sky, we are so appreciative of you coming and sharing what you guys are up to in Philadelphia. And Dalouge, thank you so much for suggesting and connecting us with Bets and Sky and Behind the Bars. Again, the website is probably the best starting point to learn more about the organization. And again, that's in the chat. And certainly, if you want to have direct contact or follow up, feel free to email me at musicpolicyforum@gmail.com, and I'll just make sure everybody's tagged up. But this is, I think what's so inspiring, and again, this is kind of why we wanted to combine Bertus and the earlier conversations with this, because I think we all need a little bit of hope and optimism and a sense of the future, in a sense that we have pathways moving forward, and it's not because of people like me in Washington, D.C., it's because of people like Bets and Sky and a lot of others who are doing the hard work and, really on the ground, innovating and thinking and being brave and creative and visionary. And it's our job to figure out what's happening in the community and how we can best support it. When we're with everybody next Friday, we'll have a new president, and we're going to have a difference of, hopefully a pathway forward to a different tone and some more creative thinking. Again, we've talked about this a lot. The Biden administration, we are very confident, is going to have a much more holistic view about the power of arts and culture and how it fits into everything that Bets and Sky are talking about in terms of youth engagement, in terms of community development, in terms of everything. So we are we're just, again, so appreciative of our guests. And again, Alex Dolvin always does a great job producing the program. Alex, thank you as always. And we love to see all the smart things in the chat. Thank you again for spending your Friday with us and being active participants. This program will be on our website at musicpolicyforum.org over the weekend, along with all of our other program archives. If you want to go back and see old programming or see the session that we did with Dalouge at the Music Policy Forum Intensive, that all lives on the site. Again, questions, comments, suggestions, very kindly worded creative criticism, hit us at musicpolicyforum@gmail.com. And otherwise, hope everybody has a safe weekend, a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Thank you, everybody.